Okay, we're going to work on dividing fractions and whole numbers. I had to start over because I was trying to go by what I was seeing on the screen over here on Buzz, and I confused myself, so I'm sure it would have been confusing for you guys. So, we're going to start all over. I know this is the first time for you guys, it's the second time for me. Important vocabulary. You ready? The first one is invert. Invert just means to turn something upside down. Turn upside down. If you were standing on your 2 feet and then you were standing on your hand and doing a handstand, you would be inverted. So here's my person. Standing on their 2 feet, arms in the air, and then all of a sudden they are upside down with 2 feet in the air and hands on the ground. That is an example of how things become inverted. The next vocabulary word is the word reciprocal. Reciprocal. For this specific instance, it is any number except 0 turned upside down. So any number except 0 turned upside down. So for instance, 3/4 is my right side up, and the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. Okay? We invert it to get the reciprocal. When we do that, something cool happens. Anytime we multiply our original fraction by its reciprocal, we get a fraction that is equivalent to 1. Pretty nifty little fact, right? Awesome. So, for instance, the number 2/5, if we utilize the number 2/5, if we invert 2/5, the reciprocal is 5/2. If we multiply the original times its reciprocal, we end up with 10/10, which equals 1. Pretty nifty so far. Now let's talk about how to model the division of fractions, okay? So let's say your hair grows 1/2 inch per month. And we want to know how long would it take to grow 2 inches? How many months for 2 inches? Well, we can look at it this way. We can say, all right, we want 2 full inches. That's our goal. Here's 1 inch. Here's the 2nd inch. And it's going to be, we're going to get 1/2 inch in 1 month. So here's the first month. We've got 1/2 inch. That's 1 month. The second month, it's going to grow 1/2 inch. That gave us a whole inch. Now we have to grow another 1/2 inch. That's the 3rd month. And we have to go a 1/2 inch more. This is the 4th month. So when we look at this, the number sentence that represents this is 2 divided by 1/2. If we divide 2 into halves, we get 4 halves. So it would take 4 months for hair to grow 2 inches if it grew 1/2 an inch per month. All right, let's look at another example. Let's look at some models and see if we can figure out what the number sentence would be for the models. So on this one, there's one hole, and here's a second hole, and we're going to take and divide this one into fourths. And we have to divide this one into fourths. So we want all of our pieces to be the same size. If we take 2 holes and divide them into 1/4, how many fourths will there be? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 divided by 1/4 equals 8. So this tells us the number of pieces out of what we started with. 2 divided by 1/4 equals 8. I'm wondering if you can show a fraction or a model for 3 divided by 1/3. 3 divided by 1/3. 3 divided by 1/3. Let's start by showing that we have 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to show that we divide each of these holes into 3s. So our first one, this represents the first hole, is divided into 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Our second one is going to have 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. And our third one is going to have 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. So when we look at that, how many thirds do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 3 divided by 1/3, 3 divided by 1/3 equals 9. This is how it is modeled with shapes. So let's talk now about the steps of dividing a whole number by a fraction. Let's talk about the steps to using the numbers to divide a whole number by a fraction. Now, up to this point, we've been working a lot with our fractions and we've been working with multiplication. Now we're going to look at division and how do we divide a whole number by a fraction. So, steps for dividing a whole number by a fraction. So let's start with step 1. Change the whole number to a fraction by writing it over 1. This is familiar. We did this with multiplication too. So we're going to change the whole number to a fraction by writing it over 1. So if we have 4 divided by 2/3, we're going to change our whole number to a fraction by writing it over 1. 4 over 1 divided by 2/3. 4 over 1 divided by 2/3. Step 2 is, in order to divide the first fraction by the second fraction, first write the reciprocal of the second fraction by switching the numerator with the denominator. So we're going to take, let's do this. Write the inverse of the second fraction, or write the reciprocal. So 2/3 becomes 3/2. Once we do that, the third step is to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. So we had 4 over 1 divided by 2/3. And now it's going to be 4 over 1 times 3/2. So we've written the reciprocal, we've inverted, and now we're at a place where we can do step 4. And this is actually multiplying the fractions. So we are going to actually multiply the fractions. So step 4, multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So it's 4 times 3 over 1 times 2, which equals 12 over 2. And step 5, is to convert to a mixed number and simplify. So you could find the GCF first if that would help you. The GCF between 12 and 2 is 2, and you could divide and you would get 6 over 1. Or you can do this division here where you have 2 goes into 12 6 times. It's 12. Our answer is 6. So 4 divided by 2/3 equals 6. Let's practice another one together, following each of these steps. Hopefully you've been pausing and taking notes as you go. We'll start out with all right, we're going to start out with 5 divided by 1/2. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my whole number to a fraction. So that becomes 5 over 1 divided by 1/2. Step 2 is we're going to write the reciprocal of 1/2. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. And so we're going to write that and change it to a multiplication sign. So it's going to be 5 over 1 times 2 over 1. Well, this should make our job super easy. Now we go ahead and we multiply 5 times 2 over 1 times 1, which equals 10 over 1, which equals 10. So 5 times 1/2 is 10. Now, how do we divide a fraction by a whole number? Guess what? That's going to be on the next video.